Yep. Cool.
Okay.
All right, let's get to it.
Glad that worked. So we were doing those storage lane things. So
Yeah.
I gotta share my screen.
Let me ask you a quick question while you're sharing. Where are our like video boxes on your screen? Are they at the top left or right corner?
Mine are just on my laptop, not on my they're just really small boxes. They're not
Okay,
like
yeah.
full screen.
They were like on the screen when we were doing it, but I don't think that'll be an issue because it wasn't like in the way of anything. And if it is, I mean, it would only be in the way of like part of the menu on Synchro from where it was on the screen.
Oh,
But I think it'll be okay because that was the only sort of thing that I had an issue with. But it
so
wasn't
there
like
was the video of me was like over top of.
it was like over top of the Synchro menu part on like toward the top, very right of the screen. But don't worry about it. I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. So that's not where it is. So that's weird. I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's something. That might be a setting you could maybe change, but I don't really know, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I'm hiding us for now.
Okay, cool.
I think it'll
So I
be
guess
okay.
we'll see. Okay, so yeah, we're measuring this left turn lane thing. So I don't know if you want to do it, but I got like
Yeah,
165 feet or something.
I got like 155, but
Okay.
I might have been doing it wrong. So.
No, I mean, that's probably good. It's just, it's wherever. Yeah, so you probably did it from, let me see what it is from here.
I went from like the end of the storage lane
Yeah,
or
where
the
like that line is.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so normally it's like wherever you think a car can like fit into that lane. So it might be a little bit further than that, but that's not. Yeah, we'll do 160.
Mhm.
So then you put that under for the southbound left. You put that under where the left turn is, right here for storage length.
Yeah.
So we did the right turn ones, and now this is the left turn one. So just 160. Enter, and
Got
then
it.
that'll put it on there too. So now we got our storage lanes and all that stuff good to go.
Cool.
So now our intersection looks like how it should. So now the next thing is putting in our phase diagram. So this like picture right here, making sure that our like movements match up with the numbers that's already out there. So if you right click on it, you click timing settings. And then this window pops up. You got it?
Mhm.
Okay, so first thing we want to do is we have these settings right here. So our control type, there's a few different kinds. There's pre-timed, actuate uncoordinated, semi-actuate uncoordinated, actuate coordinated, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So pre-timed is like if there's no detection and it's just running, say we have a 100-second cycle length, it's just giving 40 seconds to one movement, 60 seconds to the other, and it's doing it every time. Like it's not changing. Because, like that 270 stuff, a lot of those signals have detection. So if there's not a car there, it'll switch and go to the other one.
Yep.
So when there is not detection, you can do pre-timed. If there is detection, that's called it being actuated. So actuated means it's like adjusting depending on how many cars are there and stuff.
Okay.
So actuated coordinated is what we want because there's chord plans. So we can click that.
Okay.
So that's what this one will be. That's what most of them are. And then this actuated uncoordinated, where it says UNCRD,
Mhm.
that's for if a signal's, you probably hear us say like it's running free, it's not running a chord plan. So when a signal's running free, that's this actuated uncoordinated because it's uncoordinated. It's not coordinated with the signals around it. If that makes sense.
Okay. Mhm.
So actuated or unactuated is like detection stuff. Coordinated or not coordinated is if it's like running with the signals around it or if it's running free.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I get that.
Just trying to explain that so then when you watch the video, it kind of comes back. So, because I'm sure you won't remember that, but it took me a
Yeah,
while to understand.
for real. Yeah.
So we went actuated coordinated, and then this reference 2 down here where it says beginning of green, you always want to click TS2 first green for the signals around here. So traffic cabinets and stuff, they, depending on where you're at in the world and the country, they kind of run differently. But
Yeah.
anything we do pretty much always around here, or anything for the most part, is this TS2 first green. So you're going to want to click that. And all that basically means is that when it's coordinated, like the offset references the beginning of the chord phase. So our chord phases are probably 2 and 6. So our offset is going off of the beginning of those phases. Now, beginning of green is, say, a non-chord phase goes first, like phase 1, it'll go with the beginning of that movement, not
Oh,
our coordinated phase. So we always want TS2 first green. So it's good to change those first because you're going to want to always do that. And then with this box too, you can double click where it says like reference to, or really like any of this stuff, and a menu will pop up. And then you can change all this stuff for like your whole file, not just this individual intersection. So since we want this offset style to be TS2 first green everywhere, we can click TS2 first green, and then we can click set all. And then that'll set, you know, if we were doing a big file with a bunch of intersections, we don't have to do that at every intersection. Then we can do set it here and then hit set all, and that'll change it for all of our intersections. So then that way, whenever we go to those different ones, it won't be like we won't have to change it. It'll already be set up that way. Does that make
okay.
sense?
Where was the network settings at?
So you just double click on this yellow and white box right here.
Oh, yep, I got it.
You just double click on wherever, like really anywhere on there, and it'll pop up all kinds of stuff you can click.
Okay.
So you can change TS2 first green, and then you can change control type here for actuated coordinated, but like that's kind of something you can do on an intersection to intersection basis. Or you can set like your yellow time to 4 seconds, and then it'll change it for everywhere. But basically this just lets you change your settings for the whole network instead of just changing it one thing. So
Got it.
kind of helpful. And there's a few tabs where you can do kinds of different stuff where you can change,
All right.
for the whole thing. So hit OK. So now we're good. We got actuated coordinated. We got TS2 first green. We're all good. So we can start. So now we need to do our turn types and our phasing. So we have here on our phase diagram that southbound is phase 6 and phase 1. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So we go to southbound, and we have this turn type. So this is what I was telling you. So like there's protected turns, which are just the green arrow. This is PM plus PT. That means protected permissive, which is like the 5-section signal heads would have the green ball and the left arrow. So you can make the left turn during the protected movement and when it's a green ball, when it's permissive. So what you want to do is go to Google Maps again and go to Street View and see what kind of like signal head that you're looking at when you're making this left turn. So if we look on here, so if you look for southbound, which is away from the bridge, it says left turn signal, and there's only a 3-section. So we know that that's protected because you're only getting the arrow. You're not getting the permissive movement. That makes sense?
Is that the no left turn?
No, so that's the other direction.
Okay.
So,
okay, I see it.
So it says left turn signal. So there's only a 3-section. So we know it's protected. So we can change this to PROT, protected. And then that kind of just changes where this number is, and it just changes how the signal runs for like when it spits out our numbers and stuff after we get everything in here.
Yep.
It changes everything. So We know our protected phase for our phase 1 is 1. We're looking at this picture now. So we can put 1 in here, which it already has it. And then for our through is 6. So we put 6 in here, which is already in here. So then we'd be good. So then our southbound is all good. So now we go to northbound. And a lot of times it defaults to, I was telling you, like 2 and 6 are always your main line through, like your coordinated ones. And then like 4 and 8 are your side streets. So it'll automatically default and make those values here. So a lot of times it'll kind of put in the correct ones anyway, but you're still going to want to check it. So northbound through we have is 2. So we got 2 in here. Then we go over to westbound. So our westbound is 4. Looking at the picture. So we can change these. You want to put 4s in for everywhere. And then our eastbound we have is 8. So we're going to change these 4s to 8s. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So then we got our timing in, our numbers, not our timing, our phase diagrams in there. So now we can make sure. Yeah. So now we can start to put in our green times, our yellow times, our red times, all that stuff. So now we can click. This button right here is phasing settings.
Okay.
You can click that here, or you can go back to the map and then right click and click phasing settings, whatever's easier. But so once you get your phasing settings open, so this is where we're going to our timing printout that has all our numbers and our data and stuff. So we have our minimum initial is not anything we put in, that's automatically calculated by Synchro. So we don't need a, wait, no, I lied. Minimum split is automatically calculated. Minimum initial is something we need to put in. It is the minimum green time. So in this printout I gave you, I kind of highlighted the kind of important stuff. I think I should have.
Yeah.
So our min green is the same exact thing as min initial in Synchro. It's the minimum amount of time that this signal has to stay on. So if there's detection on phase 1, if this signal comes up, it has to stay on for 5 seconds before it can switch off if there's no cars there. So our minimum initial is 5 for 1. For phase 2, it's 10. So you see where I'm getting these numbers from?
Uh-huh.
So you just put in there 10. And then phase 4 is 5. And then phase 6 is 10. Okay. So phase 4 is 5. Phase 6 is 10.
Yep.
Phase 8 is 5. So we got that column done. So minimum split is not anything we put in. That's, I'll show you what we do with that later, but you skip that one. And then max split is, actually we'll do that. We'll skip, so you skip the 2 splits because that's in core data. That's the core data stuff. We're kind of putting in our phase data right now, which is like the min green, the yellow time, the red time, and the walk time and stuff like that. Just like basic stuff.
Yep.
Nothing to do with coordination. So go to our yellow time. Our yellow time is, looks like 4 seconds for everywhere. You see that on the page, on the printout? Cool. So you just put in 4 everywhere. And then our all red time is different for different phases. So it's 1.5 for 1, 1.6 for 2, 1.9 for 4. It's 1 for 6 and 1.7 for 8. So then we got that in, and then we go to our walk and ped clear times, which is right here. That is, so phase 2 has a ped phase. Phase 4 doesn't have a ped phase. So Synchro automatically gave 4 a ped phase. So you can uncheck this box right here. So pedestrian phase. So we can take that off. And then 6 and 8 both have one, so we're good there. So we can put in these numbers. So our walk time is our walk, and it's 7 everywhere. So we already have that in there, so that's good. Our flash don't walk is the same thing as this ped clear.
Okay.
So it's 14 for 2 and 6 and 24 for 8. So 14, 14, 24.
Can I ask you what all red time means?
So that's after a signal comes on. So that's the time that it's like every indication is red. So after phase 1, it'll be like the phase 1 time will be yellow for 4 seconds, and then it'll turn to red for 1.5. And for that 1.5 seconds, everywhere is red.
Okay.
So then after phase 2, it's 1.6 seconds. So for
Okay, for that direction to
yeah,
move? Okay.
yeah. So it's basically just for that movement. That's the amount of like red time that that signal has, that movement has.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got our walk time in there, so we're all good. So that's basically it for our basic phase data. So now what we need to do, what do you think about this? Okay, one more thing that I didn't highlight on here that's not like really important, but for some files, like for bigger projects, it's kind of important because we need to have it in here. But this passage time right here, if you see this on your timing printout right next to min green,
Mm-hmm.
you can maybe highlight that if you want, because that's kind of, it's not super important, but it's kind of important. So that goes, passage is the same thing as vehicle extension and minimum gap on Synchro. See those 2 columns?
Yeah.
So it's already set to 3 seconds, so we don't have to change those, but sometimes they'll be a little different. So what that is basically if there's a car on the detection and then there's no car on the detection, the controller will wait however long your passage time is for the next car to come. So if it's 3 seconds, once the car leaves, it'll count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then if no car shows up, it'll switch. But if it's, say, you can make that like 8 seconds, and then it'll have to count to 8 seconds before it can switch. So it basically just makes it stay on longer.
All right.
So you put that in there. So that's already set to 3, so we're good. So we don't have to change anything there. But that's another thing that I thought I'd mention. So then that's it for that. So then remember what I was telling you, how it's kind of better to do this for every intersection on your file and then go back and kind of go and do your chord stuff for like, because we have to do this for the AM, we have to do it for the midday, and we have to do it for the PM.
Yep.
So once you get this stuff done, this is the same for all time periods. So you can save your file as your base file, and then you can make multiple different ones off of this one. So what I would, if we had another intersection, I would save this and then go to our next intersection and get that squared away. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that way, whenever we save our base file, we have pretty much everything done. That's going to be the same for all the different time periods.
Cool.
Okay. So now we're doing, this is our AM file. Okay. So now we have to put in our coordination data, which is like this max split stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and our offset and our cycle length for the AM plan. So we would take our timing sheet and we would go to, scroll through here and try to find the schedule. So here's our traffic data. So it has like event and then day. So basically we want to find out like what pattern is running during the morning. So do you see this traffic data thing? Let me see if there's, hold on. Yeah, so you see this traffic data table?
Yep.
So if you look at this, basically, if you look at this equate, you see this equate where it says equate days right here.
Yeah.
So in engineering, transportation engineering, day 1 is Sunday, which makes 2 Monday, 3 Tuesday, 4 Wednesday, 5, so on. So 1 and 7 are your weekends. Makes sense?
Mhm.
So where it says source day 1 and then equate days, you put 7. So basically on Sunday and Saturday, it's running the same thing. It's running the weekend stuff.
Right.
And then source day 2 is equal to 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
So this makes it easier. So you can, instead of having a new plan for each day, because they're all going to run the same thing, you can just set it up for one for the weekend and set it equal to the other weekend. You can do one for your weekday and set it equal to the rest of the weekday days. Make sense?
Yep.
So we'd look at that and we'd say, so we're doing our AM plan, which means we want to know during the weekday what plan runs from like 7 to 9 in the morning, because that's your AM peak hour. So we know our source day is 2. So we go to our traffic data right here, and you see this day. So this day 1 right here is for the weekend, so we don't want that. We want day 2. So starting at midnight, which is right after midnight, this runs 111 until 5:30. And then at 5:30 in the morning, it switches to 211 and then runs that till 10. So this is the one we want because this is the one that's running in the morning during morning rush hour. So we know 211 is the pattern that we want to put in this Synchro file because this is the AM file. For the PM file, for example, we would use this one because this one starts at 2:30 and runs till 7, and that runs 311. So the PM plan would be 311, the AM plan would be 211, and then the midday, which is what runs in the middle of the day, would be 111. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Kind of get following that. A little bit confusing, but
no, this actually makes sense.
You start to pick up on it. So a lot of times it is 211, 311 in the city, and MoDOT it's kind of different. But you can always look on the schedule on the timing printout and see what is what. So it'll always tell you. So we know our dial split offset is 211. So now we need to find plan 211 and put in our numbers. So we'll scroll up to, there's this split times and phase modifications.
Okay.
You see that? So then it shows the plans for, like, these are your splits for all your different plans. So, geez, Jared, leave me alone. Okay. So we know we want dial split 211. So that's dial 2 split 1. You see this right here?
211, but it's just
yeah. So
211.
Yeah. So the last number in that 211 thing is for the offset. So in some controllers, you can have the same splits, but a different offset number. So basically, you're normally you're only looking at the first 2 numbers, but it is 211, but it's dial split. That slash is dial split offset is what that means. So the first number is your dial, second number is your split, and then the third number is the offset. So we want dial split offset 211. So we got dial split 21 right here. So this is the one we want. I don't know if I explained that very well, but basically,
No, you did.
Basically, you just got to match that up. So
okay.
So we know for phase 1, our split is 18. So that is what you would put into our max split column or row on Synchro. You see
18.
that? Yep, for phase 1. So our max split is 18. And then we go to the next one. For phase 2, it's 85. Then phase 4 is 37. Phase 6 is 103. Phase 8 is 37. So you got that?
Mm-hmm.
So then that's for the AM. So if we wanted to do PM, we would have to go to 311, which is right here, and we would just put in those numbers. Make sense?
Yep.
So you're doing the same thing. It's just finding the right one that you're putting in. And then the next thing is this recall mode right here. So you have to make sure we set, so this phase mode in our timing printout. So phase 2 and phase 6 are both coordinated. So then on the recall mode, we have to set this at C max. So C means coordinated. So 2 and 6 are coordinated phases that we're seeing right here. So it already set 2 and 6 to coordinate, so we don't have to really change anything.
Just means that they're coordinated with each other, right?
Yeah, so it just means it's mainly for, remember how I was telling you how when we set the offset, it goes from the beginning of the coordinated phases. So it kind of means a few things. So since 2 and 6 are chord phases, if a side street phase, say phase 4, which isn't our coordinated phase, gaps out, which means that there's not any cars there and it switches, that time that it's stealing from that phase is going to go back to our coordinated phase.
Oh yeah, I mean, because those are the biggest ones
Yep,
anyway.
exactly. Your coordinated phases are almost always your heavy ones. So it does that for time, where it steals time, and then for like offset and coordination and stuff, it makes it easier to line things up. So basically, you just want to make sure you're setting it to the right ones. So then we got
Awesome.
that. But then, so down here, you can actually do this before, instead of setting each individual one, this reference phase right here.
Mm-hmm.
See where it says 2 and so this means reference phase, also means coordinated phase. So you can set these. So you can do this to begin with, which might make it easier. So if you know 2 and 6 are your chord phases, you can click 2 and 6 here,
Yep.
and then it'll change it. Or say it's 4 and 8, you click 4 and 8 and see how that switches those.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that's right. So it's probably easier to just set them down here where it says reference phase. But then you always want it to be C max, never C min. So you can have C min here. You almost always want it C max. So just set that at C max. But it should always almost automatically set it to C max. So
Got it.
got that. And then, so sometimes the other time you can use this is there's what's called recalls. I think I kind of went over this last time, but basically you can have a min recall, a ped recall, or a max recall, which these are your options when you're on a phase that's not the coordinated phase. So for phase 1, say, and this would show on this timing screen where it says 0 actuated, it would say like 2 min recall or 3 max recall or something.
Oh
So
yeah,
you
I
would see
see
it right
that.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's some up here. Cool. Yeah. So it would say 3 max recall. So if we saw that on here, we would go in here and set this to max.
Okay.
So what that means is even if there's not a car there, it knows there's not a car, it's telling the controller there's a call there. So it's recalling it, like it's just telling it every time it has to come up. Even if there's not a car there, it has to come up.
All right.
So a min recall means it's going to get called every cycle, but it just stays on for the minimum initial amount of time, and then it can switch. A max recall means it gets recalled, but it stays on for the whole time. No matter if there's any cars there or no cars there, it stays on for the whole time. So that's what a max recall is. And then a ped recall means it basically just calls up the ped phase. So the walk sign and all that will come up every time,
Okay.
even if there's nobody pushing the push button and stuff. So yeah. So that's what the recalls are. So for this one, we don't have any, so we don't have to worry about that. So we just have our C maxes are all good to go. So next, so we have to put in our cycle link. So this automatically summed up our max splits in our cycle links 140. Now we can scroll down to our traffic plan data, which is right here. And for plan 211, see that? So this is for the same plan. So we have an offset time. So it actually doesn't tell you cycle length. Okay. This one. So the cycle length is basically like the sum of time for this to run, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this kind of automatically adds it up for you. So you don't really have to worry about this a lot because it'll automatically sum it up unless it's wrong, in which case you're going to want to check that. But so if you click this timing settings on Synchro, at the bottom of this page of this window is like what it looks like it's going to run out here. So if you see you have 18 seconds for phase 1, 85 seconds for phase 2, and 37 seconds for phase 4. So if you add up all of those, it's going to give you 140. 85 plus 18 plus 37. And that gives you 140. So that's your cycle length. But I mean, it's going to automatically add it up for you. So then once you get that, the last thing you're going to want to do is the offset. So that's in this traffic plan data that I was telling you about. So 211, our offset time is 35. You see that?
Yeah, on the document. Yeah.
Yep. So then that goes in this offset, this column right here, which is offset. So you just put in 35. Hit enter, and then you're all good. And then the next thing you want to pay attention to, the last thing is your sequence. So this is telling us right now that it's running alternate sequence 1. So our sequence is like the sequence that our phases come up. So right now it's set up to default, which is 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And then running with 1 would be 5, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8.
Mm-hmm.
So you can change that. You see here, alternate sequence 1. So it doesn't always have a different sequence, but sometimes they will have a different one. So that's why it'll tell you right there if it's the same one. So let's see. So that's in unit data, which is another section of this right here.
Looks like we got our cycle length right.
Yeah, yep. So that's where this is. It's kind of hidden up here, but so for dial split 2-1, it's 140. So that's where you can find that too. So kind of everything you want to find is in here, but you just kind of got to look for it, if that makes sense. So that's good. Good to know that that's there. But so this is your ring and sequence stuff. So this is where you're going to want to look for that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is kind of okay. So this is a little tricky, but I'll try to explain it as best as possible. So one, two, okay. So basically the ring structure is the order of, so if you click on Synchro where it says ring and barrier, and this window pops up.
Okay.
See that?
Yeah.
So this might make it, so our ring structure currently is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, 5 and 6 run with 1 and 2, 7 and 8 run with 3 and 4. So if you think about it, like northbound is going to be 2, southbound is going to be 6. So they can run with each other. So that's why they're kind of lined up, if that makes sense. So like 6 and 4 wouldn't run together because your main line wouldn't run with your side street.
Got it.
So you got that. And then, so it tells you phase 1, then your next phase is 2, which is right, which is what we got here. And then 2, after 2, our next phase is 3. And then since this signal does after 4, our next phase is 1. Like it goes all the way back around and goes to 1. So that makes sense. And then, so since there's not a phase 5 or a phase 7 on this, it kind of makes it a little bit more confusing. But basically, your next phase is 6, 7, then 8 and 5. So that's right. But what we're looking for is an alternate sequence. So you know how that said alternate sequence 1 on here?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that it is running an alternate sequence 1. So if that said 0, then our sequence would just be our base ring structure right here. But since it says 1, we know that it's switched it up a little bit, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
alternate sequences let you switch around a bunch of stuff. So if you look right here, alternate sequence 1, and then there's some numbers underneath 1, which says 1 and 2. Alternate sequence 2 says 3 and 4. Alternate sequence 3 says 1, 2, and 3 and 4. So what this does is this gives you options, all these different alternate sequence options to switch around how your phases are organized. So for example, with alternate sequence 1, phases 1 and 2 are switched. So what this is telling you is that for alt sequence 1, phases 1 and 2 are flip-flopped. So that's what we want on ours, but we'll go back to that. But so for alternate sequence 2, phases 3 and 4 are flip-flopped. Alternate sequence, say 6, phases 3 and 4 flip-flopped, and phases 5 and 6 are flip-flopped. So when I'm saying flip-flop, like your ring structure is telling you it's 1 and then 2. If there was an alt sequence and it told you 1 and 2 are flip-flopped, then it would be 2 and then 1.
Mm-hmm.
So we know for this example, we're using alt sequence 1. So we look for alt sequence 1, and that's saying 1 and 2. So we know 1 and 2 are flip-flop. So that means we have to go on this ring and barrier right here. We have to click where it says, so we put the 2 where the 1 is, and we put the 1 where the 2 is, because they're flip-flopped. If that kind of makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So then you just put 2 and 1, and then you hit OK. And now, if you pull up your timing settings, if you look down here, so 1 was in front of 2, but now 2 is in front of 1. You see that down at the bottom?
Yeah.
Cool. So that would be, and then I think you're done with this one signal. Yeah, so then once you got that done, that would be it for the signal. So now what you have in Synchro programmed right now is what is running during the AM for Kings Highway and Shaw.
Cool.
So then you would go to the next one and put in that's AM stuff, or kind of start on the new file and put in the PM stuff, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So then, so that's the basics of like, well, that's pretty much everything for how to like make it from scratch. So then like the detour stuff that I was showing you, I don't know if you want to, so the
I'll
problem
save
is, yeah, I guess save this, but I lost a lot of the files with my laptop, so I don't really have to go through emails and shit and find all that. Actually,
Sent them all to me, so if you just wanted to.
yeah, I'm sure they're somewhere.
Man, that sucks. Did it just kind of crap out on you?
Yeah, Srinu's gonna look at seeing if he can save all the files and shit, but yeah, it sucks.
Where do you save these at? Just like a certain folder, doesn't matter.
So I have a project folder on my desktop, and then in that folder I have all the different projects. So
Okay.
for this one, I just have Synchro training as a folder. But say I'm working on 141, I have a 141 project. If I have 270, I have a 270 project. So then kind of keeps it organized. And then okay, so I got open this up if it ever opens. Okay. There we go. So this is our detour files. Well, the files, some of the files I sent you. These probably aren't up to date or anything, but
Sure.
so I'll forward you this email real quick,
Cool.
just so we can be looking at the same thing. Two.
No, I'm glad we went over this again because now it like really starts to make sense.
Yeah, I mean, having this to look whenever because
It's
even
gonna
I
be
forget
great.
stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be able to go back and look at. It'll be nice.
All right, I got you. You opening the AM file?
Yeah, so the AM one.
Open. Let's see if it'll open.
And then, so I'm looking at route in, which is new fluorescent. So I guess find route in.
File cannot be opened for
Yeah.
exclusive use.
Just
Do you
hit,
want?
just hit no or close or whatever. It should open still.
Okay.
There's Synchro's the king of pop-ups whenever you open stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
So when you open
What?
Synchro, like not even any file, it'll ask you if you want to open the one you just opened. Like it won't open you a new one. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, let me.
Did it open?
No, not yet. Let me get it. It kind of acted a little weird. Information. Cancel. It didn't really open. The one that I clicked. It just opened a new one. But fortunately, I have them on here already, so let me just look them up. Is this, let's see, 98. Okay, what the fuck? Sorry. I guess I gotta download it first because it's not opening.
Yeah, maybe save it as.
Yeah.
Save the attachments as. Yeah.
All right, let's go in there. Yeah, I think it downloaded correctly, but we'll see. Oh my god. So many pop-ups.
Yeah, no, it's weird.
Almost there, hold on. Why won't you let me? 9/8/20 a.m. 270 detour. Almost there. Okay, I just need to. Let me see if I'm with you. Where are you at on it?
Route in. So if you scroll,
Everything's so bunched together.
I know.
See. All right, I'm with you.
In. Okay, cool.
I got you. Yep, I'm there.
Okay, so for this stuff where we already got stuff made, this is where you can look at like this time space diagram, which if you click on the road, so you need to be clicking whichever direction you pick, and then you click this time space diagram button. It pops up this how everything's coordinated together. So it shows you the green times at every intersection. So and then you can click, you probably want to be in, so this is like, this flows, these 90th, 70th, 50th, those are the like percentile of volume. So if you're at 50th, your side streets are going to be at their 50th percent volume. So the signals are going to be gapping out sooner. But if you're at max, the side streets are going to be staying on as long. Like it's basically running pre-timed, how it's not switching back and forth. It's constantly getting the time that it needs.
Yeah.
So what we normally look at is like 90th. Kind of makes it a little, probably the best way to do it. So if you go to 90th, and then you can see, so southbound at done and route in, if you get released, you're going to make it through the eastbound. You're probably going to hit Gene for a second, and then you're going to make it through. So these colors and stuff right here are in, you can pull up this legend and it'll kind of explain stuff. But basically, your arterial bandwidth, which is your blue one for southbound or eastbound, means like if you're within that bandwidth, you should be able to make it through the whole route. Like you shouldn't get stopped at any intersection. The link bandwidth means that's from just one intersection to the next intersection. It's not over the whole length. It's just if you get released here, like this is the bandwidth that you will make it through the next intersection. So that's why if you look, the green one is the length bandwidth, and it's a lot bigger than the blue one.
Mm-hmm.
See that? Because you're more likely to make it through the next signal than just the whole thing. So
Got it. Okay. So the link is green, I want
Yep.
to say.
Yeah, so if you see the legend button, did you pull up the legend?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. The colors aren't super well defined, but so green's the length. Yeah, link. Arterial means like you're going to make it through the whole route, like the whole arterial. So then they have eastbound, southbound, and then northbound and westbound are the different colors. So it's basically, so red is your arterial for northbound or westbound, blue is for southbound and eastbound. So we kind of got that. And then these diagonal lines right here at the beginning or end, those are your protected permit, like your left turn. That's when your left turn is up.
Okay.
So this one right here, for example, it's like kind of down to the right, this slashes. So that is your southbound protected permissive left turn. So if you think about it, your southbound left turn is on. So you can still go southbound through the intersection, but since the left turn's on, northbound can't go because they would hit those people. So if you think about it like a grate, like you can still keep going southbound because you can slide through there. But if you tried going northbound, you would hit the grate, if that makes sense. So you can't go northbound through it, but you can go southbound through it. Is
Okay.
that kind of following that?
Yeah.
And then when they're crisscrossed is when they're both left turns are on. So like you can't go in either direction. Make sense?
Yeah, I see that.
Kinda. So yeah, so that's what those lines mean. So what you can do is you can slide. So when we slide these, see that number that's changing right here?
Yeah.
So that's the offset. So you're changing the offset, like in that file that we put in, you're changing the offset right here by moving this, but you can, so this is kind of what I told you to kind of try around and just mess around with, is you can change kind of where stuff's lined up and stuff. And then you can also, you can do that. And then if you go to like the individual intersections, you can right click, pull up your timing settings, and then you can like kind of stretch. Say we wanted to give more time to southbound at route in and done. You could stretch, you could either shorten phase one. You see how if we move this, phase one gets shorter, but phase two gets longer.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could stretch this and make 2 and 6 longer. So you know how 1 and 2 has to be equal to 5 and 6, and 4 and 3, or well,
1, 2, 4, and 3 need to all equal the same too.
now 1, 2, 4, and 3 need to equal your cycle length. So
Oh, okay.
1 and 2 have to equal 5 and 6 because those are your first ring. 3 is not normally a side street, but 4 and 3 would have to equal 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Down here. So because those are the two separate rings, so you have to keep those equal. So that's why when we move this, like it changes for 6 too, not just 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of about it, I think. Let me think if there's anything else. So there's some more
Did you
kind
go
of,
on to Route N again, or did you go somewhere else?
I'm on route N. Yeah, my numbers might be different than yours right now. But where's one? Oh, they do. What's that? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the base. What else is there? There's some more stuff, but I don't really want to. I guess I could just throw it in there. So when signals are close to one another, let's see if there's an example in here. Is this? Yeah, these probably do.
All right, let me head over there.
Yeah. So this is Lynn Haven and Route 67. So
All right, I'm there.
this group right here.
Yeah.
So these two signals, since these two signals are right next to each other, they basically ran as one signal. So to do that, you have to use this cluster editor button, which is right underneath ring and barrier. So you click that, and you see how both of those intersections have a dot on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically saying like they're together, like they're not separate. So if you pull up like the phasing settings on one of them, yeah. So either one really.
Yeah.
So you see how some of them are white, but some of them are pink.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, or if you click timing settings, so like the pink ones are at the pink intersection on your cluster editor, and the white ones are at the white one on your editor. So like it's just telling you these movements, like they have to all they still have to all run together, but they're not two separate intersections, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So your offset and stuff is the same at both of them because they're basically two intersections ran by one controller.
Makes
So
sense.
your offsets are the same, your cycle length's the same and stuff, and your splits are the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. You go over to this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So all that stuff's the same, but it basically, so like you wouldn't change any of that. That's just for like if you're making a new intersect. Like those are very special circumstances where you might see that, but it's not very common. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just another feature of Synchro that I thought, since we're recording this, I might as well mention it.
Yeah.
So
I have a quick question.
yeah.
So after we like program everything in Synchro and do signal timings on here, um, when you actually go out to the field and you go to a controller, you just take the data that you've collected from Synchro and then input it into the controller.
So Synchro is used for kind of a few things. So like what we kind of used it for like 270 is we have kind of an existing model of this, so we can kind of see how it should be running. So we can so a lot of times we'll just take this data, and because you can put it in controllers like remotely, like we have access to change controller data like online without having to do it in the field.
Oh, yeah.
So we can take, for example, this intersection, say we wanted to change this to 50, we can see how that would line up with the other intersections. And then like before we actually made the change, we can kind of see what it is and how we want to set it up.
Nice.
So we can use it to make plans. So that's what and then we can take this max split number or the offset or really anything and put it in the controller like online, or you could do it out in the field too. I mean, you can do it anywhere, but basically it's just taking this data from Synchro, putting it in the controller. And then there's other, like for this 141 job right now, MoDOT's paying like us to retime the whole the whole corridor. So there's a crap load of intersections on it. And what you can do is we're going to use it for the same thing so we can see how it's going to run. We can propose new timing and stuff. But then you can also print out like reports. So if you hit file and then create report, there's all kinds of stuff that Synchro can kind of spit out at you. So this actually, I will say one more thing. If you right click on these intersections, there's a volume settings tab.
Okay.
Probably should have put this at the beginning, but so these do have volumes. So a lot of times when we're just looking at detours and stuff for trying to find the best time, we won't have volumes. But for like the 141 stuff, you have to have, like, we'll do like counts. You know how we have those cameras and stuff that count the number of cars that make turns and crap like that?
Mm-hmm.
So you can take the numbers that we get from those and put those in Synchro. So this has 337 throughs, 3 right turns, 400 left turns, blah, blah, blah. And then Synchro will it will basically like model or simulate what happens. So then if you go to your timing settings for that intersection, so there's this intersection delay and intersection level of service. So it can tell you like quantitative data for like each intersection or each movement. So the southeast movement right here has a delay of 62 seconds and it's a level of service E. The left turn is 133 seconds, blah, blah, blah. So these aren't always completely accurate, but they give you a really good idea of how it's going to behave in the field without actually having to, go out there and look at it.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, you can print reports if you hit file, create report. And that's where the volume stuff comes in handy is it'll take however many cars per hour and run it through kind of the signal you made.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all kinds of different stuff. So we don't really do this super often, but actually, I don't know, let's just see what, might be really big because there's so much in here.
Looks like I went to your OneNote.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. Might be because I don't have a PDF reader on this laptop yet. I don't know. But yeah, basically it'll print out a bunch of stuff. But I mean, if you ever have to do that, we'll tell you how to do that. So that's like another feature that you can use Synchro for.
If I were to try and practice on my own, what do you think I should do?
So the problem with that is you have to get these timing printouts, which to get those, we have to go on the remote server and get them.
Yeah.
So, and like it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think we've gotten to the point yet where we want to, that's kind of a whole nother process that we could explain to you, but it's kind of
Honestly,
probably wait on that.
I'll probably just like work on the Kings Highway and Shaw and like make the PM plan.
Yeah, you can do that.
I can like send it to you when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that for like all these different ones. You could make all the different ones, or even on this, I mean, you're not really making anything on the 271, but you can
mess around
play
with
around with stuff. Yeah. Just kind of get a good idea.
You can run simulations on Synchro? Like, what would that be?
So I've never done it. I think Narab does this for modeling and stuff.
Right.
But for the operations, like our side of the company, we don't really use this very often. I honestly don't know much. I don't even really know what happens. So I'm not even going to mess with it. But
no worries.
That would be a question for Narab, to be honest. So I don't really know.
All right. Well, cool. This was really helpful.
Yeah. Hopefully the video works.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I guess let me know. So.
All right.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, you can, if you wanted to mess around, you could make really any of these, and then I can kind of check it and go through and stuff. So.
Sounds good to me. Because it's like if it's kind of hard for me to just go in and like play around
Yeah.
without having a sort of goal because I
Yeah.
won't know what to do, you
Uh-huh.
know? So I'll make
I
a
mean,
PM plan.
yeah. Yeah, that works. And
Cool.
then I'll think about for 270 stuff. If stuff comes up that we need stuff made, I'll send it to you and I'll give you a crack at it. So,
Cool.
but yeah, I think that should be it. So, yeah, if you
Awesome.
have, I don't know, if you have any questions or anything, as always, let me know. So I can try
Well,
my best to answer. So I'm not the
thank
best
you.
teacher, but I try.
No, that was good. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, have a good rest of your week. And if anything comes up, let me know.
Thanks, man.
Yep. See ya.